foreign aid system is a unique global experiment that over the last 50 years has evolved and expanded, so much so that it now includes every country on the planet, whether as giver or receiver or both. But there's an issue with aid. Whether you're on the inside of aid, working on implementing aid projects, or whether you're designing aid projects, or whether you're on the outside of aid, an observer, someone who gives money to aid agencies, for example. The aid system can seem very opaque at best and downright confusing at worst. The longer I've worked on aid and the more I've come to understand it, the more convinced I've become that the aid system is locked into a reductionist mindset, a kind of simplifying approach, equivalent really to late 19th century, early 20th century businesses. The aid system works as if global poverty was a matter of construction, of planning, of engineering, and that all you need to do in order to reduce it is to roll out programs on a kind of global conveyor belt, engineering poverty out of the world. Because of our urgency to end poverty, we act as if development is a series of simple interactions, a series of simple engineering problems that we can essentially fix, rather than the complex and intricate set of relationships that we know it to be. Whether it's food aid, looking at conflict, looking at natural resource management, or health solutions, the aid sector is littered with examples of oversimplistic solutions to complex problems. Now, however, there is some hope from a new area of scientific thinking known as complex adaptive systems. And in this area of work, there are scientists, policymakers and practitioners who've been trialling a whole new set of ideas, a whole new set of ways in which to engage with and navigate rather than simply deny and ignore complexity. A really good example of an oversimplified solution to a problem is the solution of bed nets to deal with malaria. Now, bed nets are very helpful. They prevent mosquitoes from biting people. But by the time the mosquitoes got into someone's house and it's about to bite them, you could argue that actually it's too late. Prevention, eradication of malaria should really start earlier on in the process. And yet the vast majority of malaria response seems to focus on distributing cheap bed nets. Now, there's a very simple reason for this, because it's low cost and it's understandable. Everyone can understand a bed net. But it's creating perhaps more problems than it's solving. For example, mosquitoes, the carriers of malaria, are starting to evolve resistance to the insecticides that bed nets are impregnated with. In many areas where bed nets have been distributed, we're actually seeing a resurgence of malaria, which is more virulent than forms that pre-existed there. A good example is how ecologists, public health specialists and systems thinkers have come together to deal with malaria in a systemic way. So looking at the whole range of not just social but also ecological factors that lead mosquitoes to enter into people's homes, and to try and see them off at source. And this means having a cross-disciplinary approach. It means getting the understanding of how people live their lives and literally trying to eradicate malaria by moving it away from the point at which it can actually be transmitted to people.